Good morning, everybody. Do take your seats. Welcome to the second day of the Social Enterprise World Forum 2018. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. My name's Sally Magnuson. I'm a journalist here in Scotland, and it's my privilege to steer. There's so much to celebrate, so much still to do, and such exhilarating possibilities for the future that I must say I've had my breath just taken away preparing for all that we're going to see and hear today. We're delighted to welcome more than 1,400 delegates. I'm not sure they're all here yet, but I'm sure they're on their way, from 47 countries. I mean, that is amazing. The last time I worked with your host, C.I.C, was in 2009 when it was celebrating its 25th anniversary. And this time, it's a decade of SEWF. Who knows what will be happening next time I'm asked back? Maybe world domination, who knows? Today, we're going to hear from and engage with the very best social enterprises in the world. And we'll also think about what helps social enterprises to have social and environmental impact, or indeed hinders them. We'll do that in the course of 2 full plenaries, 6 plenaries, 1 debate, 6 masterclasses, 6 workshops, and 6 participative sessions. So a lot to get through, but it's going to be fun. There are 1 or 2 important things I just have to tell you about quickly first, not least to mention our unbound gratitude to the many people and companies who've helped pull an event of this magnitude and complexity together, including our international SEWF board, our advisory group, and all our partner sponsors. Special mention to our strategic partners, that's the Scottish Government, British Council, CEIS, and Social Enterprise UK, and our platinum sponsors, Johnson & Johnson, PwC, and SAP. Sponsor and partner income, it's good that you should know this, accounted for 70% of the event cost. So without their support, delegate tickets would have been 2.5 times higher, and there wouldn't have been as many people here today from as many places across the globe. So thank you to our partners, sponsors, and donors. I must urge you all, if you get the chance today, to visit our exhibition. We've got 49 exhibitor stalls. They're spread across the Strathblane foyer on level 1 and also on the Cromdale Hall, which is 2 down, level -2. There are some brilliant companies and social enterprises on site, lots of interesting things that they're selling, so do go and take a look. Now, I mustn't forget the app. I'm sure you've all discovered the app, but if you haven't already downloaded it, just head to the App Store on your device and search for SEWF 2018 and hit download. To log on, you should have received an email with login information last week, but if not, you can just go onto the app and request access, and they'll verify your details, and away you go. There's lots of useful info and functions there. There's even a game called Click, which will help you see the sites in Edinburgh, network with delegates, and take full advantage of the activities that are on offer this week. The top 5 winners of Click will receive what I'm assured are amazing prizes. Woo, exactly. Donated by British Council, PwC, SAP, Elvis and Cress, and Shetland Soap Company. We'll also be using the app to pose questions to speakers in our full plenaries, which means that everybody downstairs in the Tinto, if anybody is there on our video streaming link, they'll be able to ask a question in the same way as anybody here in the Pentland suite. For a quick demo on how to pose a question and a view of how these come through to the moderator, we've got a brief video for you which should explain all. Let's have a look.
The SEWF app is a resource for delegates and speakers. You can see the session schedule, view speakers and bios, find other delegates, venue maps, sponsor information, activity feeds for social sharing, message other delegates, set reminders, take notes, engage in session Q&A, and more. Click the top left corner of the home screen to see your schedule, edit your profile, check your messages, view contacts, and view your notes. To check your schedule, tap the calendar icon. Now you can see the entire SEWF schedule. To add a session to your calendar, tap the plus button. To see meeting invitations, tap the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. To view the other schedules for different days, scroll on the top side of the screen. Remember, make sure to only add sessions that you are pre-registered for. Within the session, you can see the session location on a map. Check in on social media, take notes, set reminders, and add to your calendar, as well as see speaker information. Some of the sessions will have Q&A enabled within the app. To ask a question, tap the Q&A button and type. Remember, questions are filtered through the moderators to ensure that repeats are not posted. There is also a 250-character limit to each question. On the home page, you can find speaker information, such as their bios and what sessions they'll be speaking at, and delegate information, where you can message other delegates, invite them for meetings, and see their bios. The Click game is a photo scavenger hunt, which delegates can compete against each other to win the top 5 prizes. First, click the Get Started button and follow the prompts to create a username. Then, click the Profile button to see the photo challenges. Upload a photo per challenge to earn badges and points. The first 5 competitors to complete all of the challenges will win a prize. The activity feed is a great way to engage with the Social Enterprise World Forum. Check out the event wall, share posts, ideas, and engage in conversation with other delegates. If you have any issues logging onto the app, please either tweet, message, or email the app coordinator.
So there you are. That's the use it to ask questions, and we'll be using it in the session that's just coming up now. I would urge you to ask as many questions as you like, but make them short. Now, I know you're going to be getting fed up hearing my voice, but I just want to go over some quick housekeeping points before we get started. There's no fire alarm test planned this morning, so if we hear one, we should leave the building by the nearest fire exit, which will be clearly signed. In line, I should tell you, with Scottish legislation, the conference centre here is a no-smoking building. If you fancy a puff, we invite you to luxuriate in the lovely Scottish weather outside. There are ashtrays provided at the front of the building, and please note that littering can incur a £50 fine. There are toilets on the Pentland floor of the foyer and on the Tinto floor, and just ask anybody for assistance. And you'll find our own staff here in blue t-shirts. So, now that the housekeeping is done, it gives me great pleasure at last to open properly the first session of SEWF 2018. And we're going to begin by looking at the changing nature of corporate and social enterprise collaboration with the help of some outstanding global examples. And while I introduce them, I'd like to invite our chair and our first panel to join us on the platform now. Our chair for this discussion, leading the way, is Dr. Marcel Vollmer, Chief Digital Officer for SAP Ariba, who joins us from Germany. And his job is to drive digital transformation for customers of SAP Ariba globally, which he'll be telling us about shortly. Joining us on the panel, we have Julian, who was appointed in January to the new position of Chief Procurement Officer, Corporate Tier Johnson & Johnson, based in New Jersey, USA. His role is designed to enable J&J Procurement to be a leader in social impact through procurement. Jeremy Willis, next along, is Director of Procurement UK for PwC. He leads PwC's Global Procurement Council, driving strategic objectives with the aim of establishing a global procurement centre of excellence. Adele Peake, next along, General Manager, Indigenous Engagement at the Foundation for Young Australians. Adele also runs her own company, Yum Yum and Delicious, and a not-for-profit Saltwater Country. And along at the end, nearest me here, Phillip Ullmann, Chief Energiser of Cordant Group, the UK's second largest recruitment and services firm, employing 125,000 people. Phillip was the architect of Cordant's move to tear up its 60-year-old structure in order to become a social enterprise with a pay cap and profit-sharing plan, a move that the company hopes will inspire other businesses to follow suit. So, corporate challenge, social challenge, a new era of commercial social collaboration. It's going to be fascinating to hear the stories of all these extremely interesting and innovative organizations. Over to you, Marcel.
Sally, many thanks. First of all, after all the housekeeping instructions, my name is Marcel Pharma. Good morning, Edinburgh. Ah, wow, it seems, yeah, you really enjoyed, and isn't this an amazing city? So I told my mother on the weekend, we had a small barbecue, that I'm going to Edinburgh, and she educated me, yeah, we were there together 35 years back. And I thought, okay, she has a better memory than I had, honestly, but I have to say it's an amazing city. I really love it, and we were at the castle, fantastic. So it's a great honor being here and opening day 2 for the Social Enterprise World Forum, and also using a little bit the time to reflect, what can we do and how can we create impact? As a former Chief Procurement Officer, I had the pleasure by myself to restructure and change the procurement function at SAP. We have some CPOs on stage here to share a little bit the insights. We can really do a lot, and we need to do a lot. Why? Because the world needs it, and we can help the world run better. And this is exactly the mission statement and improve people's lives what SAP has. So therefore, we are also very honored that SAP and the Social Enterprise World Forum, we have now a partnership announced. The first announcement was done yesterday evening at the castle by the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon. And this partnership includes that we share and provide access for the next 3 years on the technology, as well as also on talents, talent management, but also to connect people and provide a platform on that. And now I'm with SAP Ariba as Chief Digital Officer. I help companies to define digital transformation strategies and connect businesses. In the meantime, we have 3.5 million companies connected with 2.1 trillion of commerce. And this is really a platform where you can drive impact. But I will not do any marketing. I got also very well educated about keep it short. The people don't like long introductions, but this announcement was really important, and also providing you a platform to connect and hopefully also to grow your business and really improve. That's fantastic, and a great pleasure being here this morning. So without further ado, please use the app before we really go now to the content session. I would love to get a lot of questions from all of you to make it as interactive as possible. But now let's really start with the first session. And yeah, Julian, over to you. Thank you very much. Thanks and enjoy the day.
Thank you, Marcel, and good morning, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today. Such a fabulous session, and to share the stage with my great colleagues. I'm really here, and I think we're all here to talk about the opportunity that is social impact through procurement. You know, how can we, those that have influence on large corporation spend, really make sure that spend goes and has a real impact, in the world. And I think, very excited for me as well to really look at the social enterprise and to see what role that can play in corporations like Johnson & Johnson and to have the impact that we're looking to have. So I'm here both to present but also to learn a lot over the next few days. But before I start, let me quickly just introduce to you Johnson & Johnson through a video.
Who said there was an age to stop living life completely?
Being a new mom is great, tiring, just wonderful.
La chose qui a changé aussi, c'est que je me suis mariée.
It's so nice when you hear the mother say to you, Denise, my baby's HIV negative.
A healthier world provides possibilities for every individual. At Johnson & Johnson, we are united by the single purpose of our credo, toward the needs and well-being of the people we serve first, to create a healthier world.
Wow, this worked and I'm gonna be okay.
They're ready to learn and to play and to be children.
你们做的药就是一种救命药。
We touch more than 1 billion lives a day, one country at a time, one community at a time, one family at a time. Imagine the difference we can continue to make, caring for the world, one person at a time.
So I think caring for the world one person at a time certainly unites the 130,000 people at J&J, and my sense is, from this forum, it is also a common thread amongst everyone here. I think Johnson & Johnson is 132 years old, founded by three brothers who were inspired by Joseph Lister. And they took Joseph Lister's antiseptic techniques and put them in bandages. And basically took those bandages to hospitals, mass-produced them, and those bandages will have saved thousands of lives in American hospitals. And that legacy has continued on in Johnson & Johnson. As you saw here, we're now a large, broad healthcare business. We operate in about 65 different countries. We sell in about 165 different countries, and in my area of focus we have about 70,000 suppliers around the globe, and we start to get at some of the opportunity for J&J. As you may have heard from the video, where as a corporation, there's this very famous document called the Credo. And the Credo document is really the statement of ethics and responsibility for all those that work at Johnson & Johnson. And the Credo really talks about our responsibility to the patients. It really talks about our responsibility to the healthcare professionals. But it also talks about our responsibility to our employees, the communities that we serve, as well as the shareholders, the stockholders of the organization. The amazing thing about the Credo is it was written 75 years ago. And I think with that, it's actually a very modern statement. You could read that statement today and you would think it would be written by a corporation today. But the fact is this has always been in the DNA of the Johnson & Johnson business. And I think the focus on the communities, the focus on the suppliers, really makes it a real opportunity for us to build on that legacy and look at opportunities like social enterprise as something that we really want to invest in as a corporation. I think, if you think about, the world that we live in today, and we've heard it a lot over the last couple of days, the world is changing and it's changing fast. And, whether that be through technology, the digital disruption that we're all facing, we hear about robotics and machine learning and AI, whether that be through very significant changes to the workforce. I think Johnson & Johnson and many other businesses now have 5 different generations in our workforce. We have the newest generation coming in, 18-year-olds, but we have people in 70 plus now continuing on their careers. So amazing diversity within our workforce, and our customer base continues to shift dramatically as well. I think India will take over from China as the most populous country in the world in a few years' time. And I was even seeing that Nigeria is going to overtake the US as the 3rd most populous country in the world by 2050. So with all those changes and all those demographics comes significant risk. And we've really got to be cognizant of those risks and manage our way through it. But I think with those opportunities also comes huge opportunity. And this is really, I think for me, the call to action, and really, what we're looking for here from Johnson & Johnson. We're looking for partners, we're looking for businesses that will come with us on this journey, to change the trajectory of health for humanity, to be a partner in this changing dynamic, and really help us as an organization. And this is our vision for procurement. Our vision for procurement, my responsibility, is to really find a supply base that can help us, transform healthcare. So if there are social enterprises out there that are passionate about healthcare, that are passionate about the changes and the disruptions going on in the world and helping people live these healthier, happier lives, then please come and see us, either today or certainly over the next period of time. And I think, with the Credo, we really want to do this in the right way as well. So as we start to transform healthcare, making sure we do it, with great citizenship, great sustainability, really making sure that our supply base really reflects, the countries, the communities that we operate in and that we work in. A lot of sort of numbers on this slide. The reason I put this slide up is to show we have a track record in this space. We spend 1.45 billion in 2017 with women-owned and minority suppliers. Now, if you look a little bit more detailed, most of that today is in the US, where we're part of a $1 billion round table with businesses that are really fostering an agenda in this space. You will see at the bottom with social enterprises, it's much smaller. And in fact, we recognize our need to accelerate in this space, but we're committed to the journey. I think we see it as an opportunity. I think with the partnerships we have, and shout out to Social Enterprise UK that are really helping us now shape our agenda, find the right supply base for J&J, that we're really excited and committed to really shape and develop a fantastic social enterprise supply base, and significantly beyond the UK as well. And I think, if you look at the suppliers we have today, that we've started our journey with, and a number of them are in the audience today, and let me take this opportunity to thank them for the great work they do for J&J and ultimately the patients that we have out there. We're really starting to see some great benefits. I think, for J&J, we work with a number of different social enterprises. We work with some in the microfinancing arena. We work with some that support areas like autism and mental health. And if you think about it, we're a healthcare business, so no better place, for us to operate in places that are also supporting, some of these groups. Where we know through providing employment and opportunity, it's definitely helping the health and well-being. And I would also like to announce, I don't know, he's in the room here somewhere, I don't know if he'll stand up. Timo there, we've just recruited a new senior director for the procurement organization to literally focus on this space. So we're really going to try to put our money where our mouth is and put some commitment into this area. So. Timo will be at the booth later. I brought him like a stack of business cards in my suitcase with me today, so I want to see all of them gone by the end of today. But yeah, big thank you to those social enterprises that we're working with, and excited to find others through this space. One thing I'd love to do, and maybe it's through the questions because we haven't got time to do it now, is to think about what's it going to take? What's it going to take for us to move from where we are today with social enterprises to where we really want to be? And I think my observation, not just in the social enterprise space, but when we're working with women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, working with veteran-owned businesses, LGBT, people with disabilities, all these areas we care about, is at the end of the day, we're looking for suppliers that can really help J&J transform healthcare. And that supply base takes time to foster, to build, to grow. And I think it's a partnership. We won't work with a social enterprise because they're a social enterprise. We'll work with a social enterprise because they're great, at transforming healthcare and will help us on that journey. But what we are committed to is help grow, develop, mentor, coach suppliers to help them on that journey, and certainly we'll give preference to those that are doing good in society. So here are some tips, for supplier success. Happy to discuss and share these either today or on another day. But there are some good learnings we've had in the past on what makes a successful supplier into J&J. And with that, let me close. We really do want to partner to make a real difference in the world. I'm sure there are groups in this room that can be partners with us for transforming healthcare, and I'd love to see you at the booth at some point later today. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Julian. Thank you, Julian. This was really great getting the insights. Jeremy, do you want to be next?
Thanks, Marcel. So hi everyone, Jeremy Willis from PwC. When I was having breakfast this morning, I happened to look up outside the window on Bread Street from the hotel, and I saw the Johnson & Johnson, sorry, not the Johnson & Johnson, I saw, I presume this applies to you as well, the Fruitful Office delivery van. I've never seen one before. Fruitful Office are the largest social enterprise supplier to PwC, and I thought this is an omen. Today's going to be a great day. I've seen the Fruitful Office van, we're away to the races. So PwC is one of the global Big Four organizations. So we deliver tax and legal, consulting, assurance and deals advice. In the UK, we have something like 26,000 clients. Our results are about to be published on Monday, actually, digitally, so log in and see those. And you'll see some of our performance in this space there. As a global organization, I think we're around $38 billion, and I'd estimate around $9.5 billion worth of global spend. So that's a lot of social value and environmental impact through our supply chain that can be influenced. Today, I'd like to structure my discussion around three areas. Firstly, why is partnering with social enterprise important to PwC? How does it align strategically with our purpose, our values and our business strategy? How does it align with our procurement strategy? What are the particular benefits associated with social enterprise? And then some of the journey that we've been on, how we've partnered with it, how we've tried to be advocates, bring more social enterprise into our supply chain. And like Julian, I'd like to finish on some of the observations around things to be done. And I'm using this slide here to frame it. So back in the end of last year at the Social Enterprise UK Awards, we were really proud to win a couple of awards, and the first of which was the Market Builder Award, and that's me up on stage with Michael Sheen, very proud moment for me. And on the other side of the slide, you'll see Simon Boyle from our Beyond Food Foundation and Brigade also accepting an award. And I remember at the time, amongst the excitement as I got up on stage, I thought, well, yes, I will say that I'm enormously proud of what PwC has achieved, and I am. But there is so much more to be done. And I think that's probably symptomatic of the passion that we all feel for this agenda. So I will frame today's discussion around that. So let's look at why. And I've put up there PwC's purpose, which is to build trust in society and to solve important problems. Now, as a professional services firm, our license to operate is largely dictated by our reputation in the marketplace, our ability to attract and retain the right talent. So it's not surprising that we sit down and we set out all of the sustainability impact factors that are going to support that strategic imperative. And you can see them there. I'd like to highlight social mobility, so both through our operations and our services, but also how we train and develop our people. Social mobility is incredibly important for PwC. And also supporting the creation of an inclusive and diverse society. And underneath you'll see that our strategic goal is to create sustainable, profitable growth. And it's clear to us that unless we are addressing some of these very important social issues, that achieving that imperative of sustainable, profitable growth is going to be compromised. And I think the social enterprise agenda really aligns well with this purpose. As a procurement leader, I've set out what our procurement objectives are, and we rail those around three specific areas. Firstly, there's something around enhancing PwC's reputation in the marketplace. Some of that's to do with managing key supply chain risks, things like making sure there's no modern slavery in our supply chain, supporting carbon reduction, taking plastic out of our logistics. But also there's something there around fair payment practices. And for me too, being the customer of choice is incredibly important. So any supplier to PwC, I want them to position PwC as being one of their customers of choice because we're good to deal with, we're fair, we're transparent, and it's an investment in a long-term sustainable relationship. Of course, as a procurement organisation, we will have some commercial objectives. So whether it's through achieving savings or cost avoidance, that will be important to us, but also adding more value through the relationships that we establish within our supply chain. And lastly, there's something around being relevant for the future. And for me, that's not just about best practice, but adopting next practice. And I think this is very clearly where issues such as developing and embracing circular economy solutions are important, and also specifically social enterprise. And next, I'd just like to look at some of the areas where we see social enterprise being particularly distinguishing. Firstly, I think you have access to innovation and diversity that you just don't see in other parts of the supply chain, and that's incredibly important. Social enterprises are often agile, committed business partners, and they really value the business with organisations such as PwC. So you're getting business that's very focused, high quality, and often at a very competitive price point. Not always, but often. And also, through those engagements, you're minimising your environmental footprint and creating social value, and very much demonstrating PwC's purpose and values are being enacted through its supply chain. I have to say too that this is an agenda, social enterprise is very engaging for procurement, much more engaging than drafting contracts and having supply negotiations. This really is something that captures the imagination of every procurement individual at PwC and all the other Bi-Social Corporate Challenge members that we liaise with. So let's now ask a little bit about the how. So this is a long-term journey for PwC, and there are 3 areas that you can see on stage. First of which is that we established in 2011 our Social Enterprise Hub on Tooley Street next to our more London office. And we have Social Enterprise UK in that building with School for Social Entrepreneurs, PwC's Social Entrepreneurs Club, where we have over 250 social entrepreneurs. And through that hub, they receive access to networking, mentoring, structured skills development and training, but also some of those graduate into PwC supply chain, which is excellent. And on the lower floor of the fire station, we have Brigade, that social enterprise, and they take people at risk of homelessness and teach them cooking and waiting skills and place them in the hospitality sector upon graduation. Lastly, of course, we've been partnering with social enterprises, and I mentioned our relationship with Fruitful Office earlier, and that's been in place for a number of years. And in fact, it's a European relationship, which I found out quite recently when I was speaking to Fruitful Office. So all of our European offices have got this relationship with Fruitful Office, and that's, you can see some of our other large suppliers up there on stage. So that's why, when the opportunity arose for us to join the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge, it seemed like an obvious step for us, and I'm delighted that we have. That was started in 2016, and the ambition is for £1 billion to be spent through large corporates. And you can see all of the corporate members that are engaged in this, and as Julian said, shout out to Social Enterprise UK, because we've received tremendous support and we love being part of this community. And I would encourage any large corporate here today that is thinking about joining the Bi-Social Corporate Challenge, please do. It's a very supportive, inclusive environment. Once we've signed up to it, one of our commitments then is to be advocates, to train our people, and also, of course, to commit to spending more money with social enterprises. How do we raise awareness within the firm? So there are a number of ways we've done that. First and foremost, we've developed a microsite, and on that site you can see videos of some of the inspiring stories and some of the impact we've been created through our partnerships with social enterprises. We've also organised Christmas fairs, social enterprise Christmas fairs. I've been the beneficiary of some excellent Stand For socks as a result of that. Stand For socks donate a pair of socks to a homeless person for every pair that you buy. They're very fetching. Also, we've been advocates in the press. Our senior partner is a Clare sponsor, Kevin Ellis, of the Social Enterprise Agenda, and he's been quite vociferous in the press on that. And we've hosted what we term Dragon's Den panels with other Bi-Social Corporate Challenge members, Social Enterprise UK, some of our key service owners and our business partners, i.e. our suppliers, key suppliers, to meet with social enterprises where they can pitch their products. And it's an excellent forum so we can work out between us how and where they can fit in our supply chain, and also have some challenging discussions around perhaps they might need to change how they price the product, or give them some advice on some of the distribution channels for coming in to be a supplier into PwC. And also we have branded some of the products internally. So as those customers, the PwC people, are consuming the products, we put little tags in them so that they can see the social and environmental impact that they are having through their consumption of these products. And that's been excellent at raising awareness. Lastly, I'd like to come to some of the challenges associated with social enterprise through our experience. And I think these are all addressable, but I think they're very real. First thing to state is that procurement is not the buyer, which is something of a misconception. Procurement doesn't have budget. We support the supply chain, but it's really the business where the purchasing happens. And so as much as you will have very clear senior executive sponsorship, a committed core of practitioners, corporate sustainability practitioners, procurement practitioners, bought-in service owners, actually there's a big job to be done influencing the buyers in the business, and that's not always easy. It's clear to us too that partnering with Tier 1 suppliers is key. If I look at our UK supply chain, we spent something like £694 million last year. 71% of that was with 100 suppliers. Most large corporates will have consolidated their supply chain, whether through outsourced service arrangements, to a very small number of key suppliers. And so you may have some direct relationships with social enterprises, but it is most likely that they will come in tiers 2, 3 and 4 in your supply chain. So working with your key suppliers to help bring those social enterprises into the different tiers of your supply chain is key. I think there's something too about meaningfully mapping your business demand to social enterprise capability. Through Social Enterprise UK and Friendly Fires, we're running through a process to do that just now, and that's quite helpful. But I would make a statement too that there simply aren't enough large social enterprise suppliers as yet. I'm looking at Colin, Wild Hearts. There are a number of large suppliers out there, but when you think about that top 100 suppliers, each of which must have an average of over £4 million spend with PwC, there just aren't that many large corporates out there. So there is a job to be done to create large social enterprises. And also, it's not that easy growing organically some of the corporate-ready suppliers, and some of those are in the building today as well, because you have to work with them to make sure that you have a consistent and predictable forecast demand. And those are underpinned by long-term contracts so that they can grow and invest with the confidence of knowing that there's a revenue stream to map against it. I've listed some of the social enterprises up on screen today. I have loved meeting all of them. Some of them we haven't yet partnered with. I hope that we do. There's some excellent examples out there, and there are so many more that aren't on the list. I will end where I started. PwC is very proud to be associated with the social enterprise agenda. There is more to be done. I'm very confident that with the talent and expertise and passion and energy in the room today, that can be addressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Jeremy. Adele.
Good morning. Before I start, I would just like to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land that we meet on today. I'd also like to extend my respects to the other First Nations people from around the world in the room, and also to my own family, the Yaru and Bunama people from Broome, Western Australia. So, one of the things I would like to share with you before we start will give you a bit of essence and a bit of thought around the types of thought-provoking things that I want to discuss. So give me a moment and feel free to watch this video.
Shoulder to shoulder, take off your backpacks. Basketball, line up, we're about to race. Hey, we are racing for a $100 bill. The winner of this race will take this. A $100 bill. Before I say go, I'm going to make a couple statements. If those statements apply to you, I want you to take 2 steps forward. If those statements don't apply to you, I want you to stay right where you're at. Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills. Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from. I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look. Every statement I've made has nothing to do with anything any of you have done. Has nothing to do with decisions you've made. Everything I have said has nothing to do with what you've done. We all know these people up here have a better opportunity to win this $100. Does that mean these people back here can't race? No. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity. We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start. But the reality is we have. Now, there's no excuse. They still got to run their race. You still got to run your race. But whoever wins this $100, I think it'd be extremely foolish of you not to utilize that and learn more about somebody else's story. Because the reality is, if this was a fair race and everybody was back on that line, I guarantee you some of these black dudes would smoke all of you. And it's only because you have this big of a head start that you're possibly going to win this race called life. That is a picture of life, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing you've done has put you in the lead that you're in right now. When I say go, on your mark, get set, go! If you didn't learn anything from this activity, you're a fool.
So as much as I would like to take credit for that video, it's obviously a US school. The reason I like to share it is because I like to share the message that basically we have a long way to go in terms of equality. And one of the great things about working for somewhere like the Foundation for Young Australians is the recognition of inequality and putting young people at the centre. Because all of you running social enterprises, as much as corporates, as much as government, as much as industry, has a responsibility to grow your future workforce. And who's going to be where you are today to carry on that message? It's young people. And so the great thing about this symposium and the event itself was also that there was a young talent program that took place, which we opened and with the support of PwC. I'd just like to take a moment to ask all those young people who are a part of that to stand up, if you're in the room. They're your future. So now I gave, you guys can sit down, thank you, you were great, you all look fabulous. So I gave them a bit of a pep talk about a bit of hustle, what they were going to use these couple of days to do. And I want to remind every one of you, the responsibility is not just on them. Every one of you should introduce yourselves to them. Hear their story, ask them about their opinions. Everyone on this stage should be thinking about the future employment opportunities and pathways that affect the people in front of them. It's very easy to throw around buzzwords. I've worked in mining, not-for-profit, corporate. I work for myself. And everything that I have learned has brought me to where I am today. And it was through great leaders, supportive community members, and also different opportunities. But I also like to remind people there is a difference between having a voice and opportunity. And the reason being is that you can apply for scholarships, you can apply for courses, you can apply for everything under the sun and get there and be established, but you can still not be heard. And so that's why it's really important when you see these young people walking around, you do introduce yourselves. So a couple of things that I just want to highlight that I think is important as to why I've chosen to work with the Foundation of Young Australians whilst building my own empire is because I see the value in contributing to young people. So the Foundation for Young Australians actually puts young people at the centre and recognises through research, so it's not just they've made an assumption, they've actually had thought and planning and recognition that what's missing in industry or what's missing in education or policy is the fact that young people need to be given an opportunity to gain employment. What do they do if they don't have that? There is no guarantee anymore. If you go to university, you're going to be set up with a career ahead of you. So for the Young Foundation for Young Australians, what we actually do is two main programs. One is the Young Social Pioneers, where it's recognition of having to build that resilience and skill set before you even gain employment. Because the reality is, how else are you going to get there if no one's going to give you a chance? So one of the great things about that program is really building resilience, it's challenging their minds, and also thinking about all those different pieces of the puzzle when it comes to enterprise skill development. Because one of the biggest learnings, and I think I like to share with those young people from the Young Talent Program, is the reality is you don't necessarily have to be in a specific industry. It's the skill set that you take to each industry what's important. So enterprise skills like facilitation, project management, collaboration, communication, these aren't buzzwords. This is how you approach work. And it means that you're flexible and you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. To say that you're going to sign up to a corporation for the next 30 years for most young people isn't a reality anymore, because how they're going to get into the door. And it's privilege for some, like that video highlights. What cards you were dealt are not your fault, but it's what you do with it that counts. And so it's a reminder for everyone that the reality is it isn't an equal playing field. Everybody has a responsibility, and a particular responsibility should also be extended to First Nations people. So in the Foundation for Young Australians, I'm responsible for developing an Indigenous strategy. And some of their learnings is that, obviously, which I implore all of you to do and to take with you and to learn from, and to put it into your context of business speak, it's all around diversity and inclusion. Because you get Indigenous engagement right and First Nations engagement right, I will guarantee you will get diversity and inclusion. Because the learnings from having representation, different ways of thinking, and also respect for other cultural values is beyond the wildest dreams when it comes to comprehension of business. This whole notion of social enterprise baffles me in a way, because this is just how my people operate. You share, you give, you learn, you encourage. It's not rocket science, as we all know. However, it's the recognition that in order to be treated fairly, sometimes you have to be treated differently. So understanding that the true essence of diversity and inclusion is about how do we approach it so that young people can be engaged, people with disabilities. And we can't keep pointing out, we need to look into our own backyards. One of the biggest things that I see in organisations, or even in Australia or other country contexts, is we want to look out and we want to point out what's wrong, but we're not prepared to be self-reflective to begin with. So you need to start at home, you need to start in your own backyards, you need to talk the talk and walk the walk. Reconciliation doesn't happen across the world. Social enterprise won't happen across the world unless every government, industry, social enterprise, corporation takes part in it. There is no us and them. There is only one race, the human race. So thank you for your time, and I encourage you all to make the time to meet these fabulous young people, because they're your future workforce and your future social enterprises.
Many thanks. Thanks, Adele. This was very impressive. And last but not least, Phillip. So
Thank you.
You're up next.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Phillip Ullmann, and I'm the Chief Energizer of the Cordant Group. That normally raises two questions. One, what's a Chief Energizer? And two, who are the Cordant Group? Starting with number one, a Chief Energizer's job is to energize the team. It's about servant leadership. It's not about making decisions, it's about creating an environment where others can thrive. The Cordant Group was set up in 1959 by my dad. It was a security guarding company. I joined in 1996, At the time, we turned over about 12 million and provided 1,000 security officers. Fortunately, we've grown now to a turnover of 850 million, and we placed 125,000 people last year. We're in recruitment and facility services now. Geographically, we're in the UK, Ireland, all over Europe, and indeed in Australia. I'm here today because a year ago, we converted the Cordant Group into a social enterprise. We made fundamentally 3 changes to the Constitution. 1, we capped dividends. Now, that's an absolute cap. The family cannot take more than a fixed amount. It's not a percentage, it's an absolute cap, which is critical. Number 2, we put a cap on remuneration of 20 times the lowest paid. And number 3, we're introducing profit-sharing arrangements. Now, what's happened in the last year has blown my mind. The level of engagement we got from around the world is beyond my wildest dreams. That's why I'm so excited to be here today. As a snapshot, I spoke at a UN Global Summit for the Strong Cities Network to mayors of the largest cities in the world about how social enterprise can deal with terrorism. I spoke at the UN Global Compact to a group of large businesses explaining how social enterprise is the only way of achieving the SDGs by 2030. I'm working with Lord Glassman with the Foundation for the Common Good to spread the concept of the common good. And I'm also working with Professor Colin Mayer and the British Academy on the future of the corporation, the future of capitalism. And they're using Cordant Group as a worked example. So to me, if that doesn't say that these ideas have come of age, what does is mind-blowing. So what about the future? To start, let me give a brief history of knowledge dissemination. The last time dissemination of knowledge took a giant leap was in the 15th century when the printing press was invented. Now, what that did is it enabled people to communicate ideas and knowledge much faster. Up until then, you had to handwrite information. It then became printable, and then suddenly you could communicate much faster with larger numbers of people. That resulted in the Industrial Revolution and in liberal democracy and capitalism. Now, that's automation of manpower. We're now doing the other bit, which is automation of the mind. So now we can communicate in an instant with the whole world via smartphones and the internet. Now, surprise, surprise, all the institutions that were created for the old method of communication, which required hierarchy, are failing. Liberal democracy is failing, and indeed capitalism is failing. And that's why it's a time to change. Now, let me isolate the two. What is wrong with the state? Well, between 1945 and 1975, we tried statism. It didn't work, and it's very simple why it didn't work. Fundamentally, there's not enough liberalism, there's not enough freedom, and you can't innovate, you can't compete. So that does not result in innovation and simply doesn't work. Then from 75 till now, we've tried capitalism. Again, phenomenal for competition and for innovation, but absolutely useless for distribution. It doesn't know how to distribute, has no social conscience, and therefore that has failed. So fundamentally, those two have failed, and we need another answer. And the answer I see is social enterprise, but in a slightly different guise. I like to call it covenant versus contract. Let me explain. A contract is a collective whereby I am an individual, have my own interests. I get together with someone else who has their own interests. It's a transaction, it's an exchange of value, and I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it to protect myself. And that's the same with the social contract. I give my taxes to the government, they give me services, but again, it's in my interest, it's a zero-sum game. Covenant, to me, is what we're looking for. In a covenant, I have my own identity, my own values, my own beliefs, I'm a human being, not a thing. And I give. I get together with someone else who is also different to me, but also has their own beliefs, their own values, their own education, and we give to each other. We form a new identity together for the sake of the universal common good. And it's a very powerful idea, and we can spend hours discussing it, but to me, it's the future. So how do you bring about the covenant? To me, there are 3 changes. 1, disintermediation, 2, wholeness, and 3, purpose. Starting with disintermediation. When you communicate with the whole world in an instant, you don't need hierarchy. Hierarchy is dead. We need to create covenantal relationships where the middleman gets taken out. So fundamentally, we can look at this vertically and horizontally. Vertically, we talk about self-managing teams. The vision here is we have teams with all the skills within that team and decisions made via a new process. And if there's one thing you think about after my talk, it's this bit. Effectively, we need to look at a new way of making decisions. We call it the advice process. An individual makes the decision and has 2 obligations. 1, to consult with everybody who's impacted by that decision, and 2, with everybody who has advice to offer about the decision. This is not a vote. The trouble, it's not liberal democracy as we know it, because the trouble with that is that the electorate don't really understand all the issues, and the person implementing the decision may have voted against, as we find with Brexit and the concerns that raised. It fundamentally doesn't work. It's not consensus, because that gives the individual too much power. It's a covenantal decision-making process, where the I makes a decision in the interest of the universal common good, and it, to me, will radically change everything that we have. Horizontally, we have supply chains with lots of intermediaries. They've got to go. We've got to build a close relationship between the producer and the consumer and eliminate the middleman. We have to build platforms where we have direct relationships between the producer and the consumer with others advising. Fundamentally, we need to disintermediate. Now, these ideas the millennials absolutely love, because they haven't got the patience. When they come to an organization, they don't want to wait, quite rightly, 20 years to become CEO, whatever you call it. They have no interest in that. They want to make a difference straight away. By disintermediating, by self-managing teams, that's perfect for the millennials. The second change is wholeness. Wholeness means that traditionally we wear a mask at work. When we come to work, we are not ourselves. We go to meetings. At the meetings, we answer the question the way we think the person putting the question wants it answered. We learn it in school because teachers ask questions. We answer the way we think the teacher wants to hear the answer. That's no good. It doesn't enable us to build identity and ourselves, and we have to build processes that create wholeness at work. And finally, purpose, which is big. Purpose is not profit maximization. It's changing, perfecting the world. It's not about making profit for me. It's about profit for purpose. It's about achieving the SDGs. It's a completely new way of working. And the key concept here is caps. The word capitalism is an anagram of a cap and limits. That tells me that we need to place lower limits, which to me is at least a living wage for everybody, and upper limits, caps on dividends, caps on remuneration. That will enable us to share, to work together. Fundamentally, we're reaching a new time, a tipping point. I was speaking to Jerry, and we all are excited. Something's changing in the world. And what we're looking to do here is over the next few months, create a movement of like-minded individuals and organizations that together can deliver the dream of covenant versus contract. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Philip. Now we understand a little bit more what a chief energizing officer does. So at least we can see the passion and all the passion what you have demonstrated here to the entire audience about. And I think how important the topics are. Adele, I think you really created a lot of impact with the video by showing the advantages some people get by birth, by education, by the parents, and also how important it is basically to help the others. And this leads very often also to a question, and therefore, Julian, Jeremy, let me start with you. When I was CPO, always the question was coming up, and we got this here in a couple of the questions provided. By the way, thank you very much for the questions. It is amazing. We never will make it through all these, but I really like the engagement and seeing your interest in these topics. But when we talk about the investments or basically in sourcing decisions, a question very often comes up about, okay, we can do this with social enterprises or with minority-owned businesses, but it might be a little bit higher costs than when we just go for the cheapest one, what basically a procurement organization, what buyers are getting trained on a regular basis and also getting measured by the savings they need to report back. What do you do and how do you balance that? By basically now, saying, I want to have these suppliers and I promote social enterprises. So, Julian, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and it's definitely something we discuss a lot. And I don't think there's a perfect answer to the question, but just a couple of things that we certainly do. One is all our procurement employees have goals and objectives in the space of reputation building, risk management. So you know, our category leaders that manage the categories of spend that J&J operate will have goals in this space. So they will be expected to foster relationships with their suppliers that really help build the reputation of Johnson & Johnson, and that could be through the use of minority, women-owned social enterprise suppliers. So I think having goals and objectives, which are certainly not just about savings, but are also about, you know, building reputation and fostering, you know, a really social supply base, I think is a key step. And then I think the other thing is just when we review our supply base, it is to have a balanced view of everything they build to bring to J&J. And you know, I think for me, you know, I like our vision. Our vision is, you know, how do we foster a supply base that changes the trajectory of health? Our vision isn't how can we save a lot of money. So I think, you know, having the right vision, having the right belief in what the role of choosing the right supply base is, and making sure that every procurement employee, you know, has that balanced view of what a great supplier partnership looks like, I think helps people make the right decision.
Perfect. Great answer. Jeremy, anything to add from your side?
Yes, well, I'd absolutely agree with everything you said there, Julian. And I think it's incumbent on procurement professionals to be articulate and to be able to influence others through dialogue to what the additional value is associated with partnering with social enterprises. So it could be the case, if I use Soap Company as an example, one of our social enterprise suppliers, and Soap Company employs visually impaired people to deliver the services. Now, they could do that more efficiently, perhaps, if they automated some of their processes, but that would undermine their social purpose. But it's an excellent product, and it adds value to what we're trying to achieve in terms of our purpose and creating social mobility. And so when I'm selling that proposition internally, it's a case of saying, well, it might cost slightly more here, but the additional value is up here. Mm-hmm. So you will get more from making that investment with that social enterprise supplier than you would with partnering with somebody else. And I think that's the conversation you need to have with the business.
Absolutely.
Perfect, Jeremy. Thank you. Adele, there was one very specific question, if there's anything also what you are doing for women in particular. So not only the young people, also for women. The gender pay gap was mentioned in the question. So is there any initiative what you are driving on that?
I believe that particularly with the Foundation for Young Australians, equality is across the board, so it isn't necessarily, inequality is across the board, so it isn't necessarily particularly aimed at women. It's aimed at women, men, transgender, multicultural, so there isn't really a space in which is geared towards one or the other more particularly. It's just in general, the fluidity of how we operate is to accommodate for all and create opportunities for all, but whilst recognising each individual circumstance is different, and when we do deliver a program, it's those other additional considerations that are brought into it to see how it could be more inclusive depending on someone's background or a potential disability or even access. So it's really about ensuring that the way that you operate in terms of your policies and procedures is actually influenced and implemented diversity and inclusion to begin with, rather than it being an add-on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. And are there any tips, key success factors, what you have seen on partnering with corporations as a social enterprise? Any advice what you can give? This was one question here.
Sure. I think in all my circumstances, whether it's working for the Foundation for Young Australians or myself, the reality is there is multiple add-ons in terms of learnings and cross-learning. It's not just a case where the organisation that I am associated with is taking learnings. It's actually the corporates getting a lot back from, whether it be mentoring, whether it be exposure through how to approach or think differently. So I think it would be naive to think that it's on the corporate side of things a giving process, because they get a lot in return as well.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Phillip, there was a question building on what you said about the social enterprise. So do you believe that every business basically can become a social enterprise?
Absolutely. It's not about procuring from social enterprise, it's about morphing into a social enterprise. If you think about it, it's a relationship, it's a new way of looking at the world. It's not marketing, it's actually doing the right thing. Fundamentally, all organisations should be doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thanks, Phillip. Great question and fantastic answer on that. So there was a question on the procurement side that we talk about how we do the procurement and how we ensure that we promote social enterprise, and you shared already some insights on how you do this for J&J and for PwC. One follow-up question is about how do you ensure and focus that also the tier 1, tier 2 suppliers, so when you go a little bit further down in the chain, are also sticking to the rules defined, and that you're also focused by the selection of them. So, Jeremy, do you want to start?
I'd love to take that question first, because it's an interesting challenge. And when we found that we looked at the supply chain for some of these social enterprises that were coming in at tier 3, tier 4 in the supply chain, we found actually that there were disincentives to them being adopted as social enterprises. And it wasn't until we sat down and had a robust conversation with them, we said, well, what is stopping you? We've got great intention. We're articulating that to the market. We've got an ambition to do this. We've spoken to our tier 1 suppliers. What is stopping you from getting into our supply chain? And they say, well, the path that we have coming into you, there are different layers of distribution, there are different costs added to that, there are different incentives against us being adopted in your supply chain. So unless you are specific, unless you have that contractual commitment with those tier 1 suppliers to adopt us down here, Jeremy, it's not going to happen. And you need to be very clear to those tier 1 suppliers that this is your preference. And so that can be set out contractually, but you need to be really rigorous in enforcing that and making it happen. So I think there is definitely something here where you have to be very energised and engaged to make sure that there's the right dialogue between yourselves, the different layers of distribution, and the social enterprise supplier.
Mm-hmm. Right. Julian.
Yeah, just maybe a simple example. So, Johnson & Johnson, very, very large, very complex business, and, we try to offer our employees, a consistent experience across all our different sites. And as a result of that, sometimes you make choices. So one choice we have made is we will have looked at a catering supplier that can cover many of our markets across Europe. And you won't find a social enterprise that has the size and the breadth that can do that type of work. In this case, example of like Sodexo, who is a catering supplier, and I think exactly as Jeremy said, how do we then partner with them to make sure that they have a committed partnership with us to bring in social enterprises? Because what we do know is there are a number of sort of social enterprises that could serve Sodexo and provide some phenomenal products to all our different, let's say European sites. And the interesting thing here is the conversation with Sodexo is not a hard one. It's actually a very easy one. I think as Phillip, sort of highlighted, there is a passion and interest in this space. So they're very committed to it as well. And to be honest, the really important thing is the reason we provide catering services is so people enjoy, you know, the food and the environment and working at J&J. And I tell you, a lot of the products that we've been able to bring into J&J as a result of that, you know, are very beloved products. So it feels like there's a real win-win-win in there, but you've just got to be able to shape the solution so it meets all of those needs.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thanks. Phillip, there's a question for you on what was your key moment, your aha moment when you started your journey for self-managed teams?
Good question. I was being interviewed by a journalist a few weeks ago, and she actually helped me work out what it was. It was actually the kids. I've got 4 wonderful kids, and my daughter got married about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and as we do in our tradition, we were discussing with his parents what he should do. He was in his final year of law at university, and at the time, myself and my wife and the mother suggested he should become a professional. He should follow what we call the philanthropic model of working hard, building up wealth, giving generously to charity. And he said, no, he wanted to change the world. He's phenomenal with the kids. He loves educating the boys. He's inspiring. He said, no, I want to do what I love. And I almost changed sides. I had an epiphany. And from a poacher, became a gamekeeper. I recognized that I was born as a baby boomer. I became a millennial elect. And that was the turning point. And that's when, and it was the kids, it was the millennials that caused it.
Phillip, that's awesome. I think we are now coming to the end, but probably one final question the audience might be very much interested in is any advice, and probably can start from the procurement perspective. Julian, Jeremy, this question for you. Any advice you would give the multiple social enterprise businesses here in the room, what to do to engage with large corporations like you both are leading the procurement function? And then Adele and Phillip, probably you have also some thoughts to share continuing on that. But let's start, Julian, do you want to start?
Yeah, it's a simple piece of advice, you know, understand, you know, J&J's mission to change the trajectory of health and understand how you can partner in it. Mm-hmm. Don't come to us with your product and service and, you know, hope it's going to be a win. Really understand what we need to fulfill that mission and then see how you can contribute. And I think that way you'll just have much more success and it'll be a much less frustrating process.
So the research and really being prepared, understanding it, and then have one offering which fits exactly to your needs. Okay?
Absolutely, and believe J&J is the right partner for you. You know, be self-selective in that choice of which corporates you engage with.
Perfect. Jeremy.
So that's a great answer, and I couldn't add to that. So I'll reconfirm that, but I would say too that I'm very interested in this challenge around how we build market capability for large social enterprise suppliers. And I think that's got something to do with when you look at large corporates and you look at the big scale business opportunities, infrastructure projects out there, if you are minded to start a social enterprise or develop it in a certain direction, please be looking at those opportunities and develop a proposition that maps to those opportunities. Because fundamentally, you know, you have to map demand with capacity, and I think that's a big opportunity.
Great advice. The other perspective?
Just a few. I highly implore everybody to grow their organisation's cultural intelligence. Walk the walk and talk the talk. If you're not going to do something, don't say you're going to do it. Build relationships, collaborate. And I would probably say that representation throughout the organisation is incredibly important if you're promoting diversity and inclusion, because who are you to say what's right if you don't have the right representatives within it? And lastly, embed your values into your policies and procedure, because the reality is you're never going to achieve objectives if you don't pinpoint what they are, have milestones, create targets. It's just talk if you don't action it.
Awesome. Phillip, I know we are already out of time, but probably another 15 seconds.
Okay, 2 points. First of all, as social enterprises, you guys have succeeded despite the system, not because of the system. The system is contractual, you're covenantal. And it's amazing what you guys have done, so that's point number one. Point number two is you don't need to be big to change the world. You change one person's life, you've changed the world. So you don't have to be big. Each one of you can do it yourselves.
Thank you. And that's a great closing. Thank you very much. We are a little bit over time, sorry for that, but I think we catched up from the delay we started with. Enjoy the rest of the day, and yeah, thanks. It was a fantastic session. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Marcel, and to all the speakers. Millennial elect, that's what I'm going to tell my kids I am. I hope you've all come away from that session with lots of ideas. You don't need to be big to change the world, and that's exactly what we're going to hear more about now, I think, from two inspirational social enterprise founders. We have Kibret Abebe, the founder and CEO of Tabita, Ethiopia's first private ambulance company, and Bruktawit Tigabu, co-founder and general manager of WizKids and Tibeb Girls. And I'd just like to say that we're very grateful to both of you for moving this presentation from Friday, where it was originally scheduled, to accommodate the fact that the actor Michael Sheen, who was hoping very much to be with us today, has been unable to do that for family reasons. I've been looking forward very much to this session because Michael, sorry, I was going to tell you about Michael Sheen, because these are just such outstanding social enterprises we're going to hear about now. People with great stories of innovation and resilience who are addressing social challenges with the most wonderful creativity and determination and making a huge, as you'll hear, a huge social impact. Kibret through Tabita Ambulance and Bruktawit, who we're allowed to call Brukte, I think. Brukte through the amazing WizKids and the other things that she's doing on an educational front with young people. So let me start by asking you first, Kibret, to tell us your story.
I want to run the video first.
What?
The video first.
Yeah, video.
The first paramedic college was realized in Ethiopia on September 2, 2017. Tabita Paramedic College is constituted under Tabita Pre-Hospital Emergency Medical Services PLC. Provided full accreditation by the Technical and Vocational Education Office of Addis Ababa City Administration, Tabita provides trainings on emergency medical services. Tabita Paramedic College started its operation enrolling 16 students from January 7, 2018 in its regular program in collaboration with Weber University of America, Norwegian humanitarian organization called Partnership for Change, and Raleigh School of Drivers and Mechanics in Ethiopia. Having broadcasted its invitation of application using radio and television channels, the college provided scholarship for its first batch of students between the age of 20 to 30. The students were enrolled in natural science education in high school, and their score in their national examination was a minimum of 271 points. Tabita gave attention to the keen interest of trainees to emergency medical services and their physical fitness and discipline for the job. 136 students got registered following the call for application. However, 80 students were selected for written examination. From these, 45 applicants were selected for interview. Finally, 16 students were selected based on their interview results and academic performance. Tabita Paramedic College envisions to training capable emergency medical service providers in personality that helps them saving lives, providing pre-hospital services. 40% of the participants of the training currently are females, aiming at ensuring women participation and contribution. The training covers 20% of theoretical classroom discussion and 80% field practice. In order to develop the knowledge and skills of driving ambulance and riding motorbike, trainings are being facilitated in collaboration with Raleigh School of Drivers and Mechanics in order to help secure driver's license. Currently, the college covers the transportation expense of the trainees, providing monthly allowance. They will get their diplomas from Tabita Paramedic College, Weber State University, and as emergency medical technicians. Tabita Ambulance will arrange employment opportunity for successful graduates of the program on its ambulance. Tabita Ambulance is a company established to be model social enterprise in Africa.
Thank you very much. The name of my company is called Tabita Ambulance. Tabita means an Amharic word that means a drop. I am asking myself, what is your drop of contribution on the problem that you are seeing almost daily? I am a nurse anesthetist by profession who was working for 17 years conducting anesthesia in big teaching and referral hospital in Addis Ababa. And almost daily, I can say that. I was forced to handle emergency cases in the operation theater. People, if you only take like road traffic injury, there is 194 deaths per 10,000 licensed vehicles. From these victims, only 4% of the victims are coming to the hospital with ambulance. The rest, 96% are coming with personal car and taxi without any life-saving measure. I'm asking my friends around there, what can we do about it? Like big surgeons. And everybody almost was discouraging me that this is, you have nothing to do with this, like the government or other body, like non-government organizations should entertain this type of problem, not a person like you. So I get a chance to evacuate one diplomat from Addis Ababa to London who came for election observation purpose, a British citizen one, to London by our famous airline, Ethiopian Airlines. Then I see with my naked eyes that how people are being treated in the pre-hospital setup. When I go back from London to Addis Ababa after 5 days, I quit my job. I said that I have to think clearly about my drop of contribution on the topics that I'm well versed. So the two important and very frustrating challenges that I faced was, one, when I faced the government said that, well, we don't have standard for private ambulance service. If you are an NGO, you can do it in whatever way that you like to do it. But if you are a private entity, then we need to have a standard. And very unfortunately, they don't have a standard. So I was forced to write 17-page standard for myself in 2008. Then the second challenge was, like I write that standard, and the second challenge was, I want to be an investor. I want to entertain the problem from entrepreneurship point of view, not as such aid dependent. So I was forced at that time to sell my only house, almost fighting with my wife. And I was having a little boy, like only 1 year at that time. So I sold my house, I traveled to Dubai, I cooked all the car to ambulances, I brought them back to Addis Ababa. I started the ambulance service without any call center, with a number of problems. So this being solved like this, then I continue to work. The impact that I'm making now is very huge. Like, for the last 10 years, we evacuated more than 65,000 patients. Most of them were, road traffic injury. If we were not there in the pre-hospital setup, it was very difficult to save the life of these people. We also give training for 45,000 people. And we opened the first paramedic college, as you see, in history of Ethiopia. The challenges are immense that I can't talk about it, frankly speaking. But the issue is like, whenever I face a challenge, that is my day. Like, how can we solve this problem? So the challenge that I face, for example, is like, we only hire nurses from the market to treat patients in the pre-hospital setup. So nurses are not being trained, peculiarly in emergency situations, are very difficult to bring them to the board of paramedics. So I said that we need to have a paramedic college. I really negotiate with the government. My government is so cooperative that we try to have a curriculum. As you know, a paramedic is like a physician, a driver, and a soldier. So that the curriculum should be like, from these very peculiar professions. So we lobby with the government, and the government is just seeing it as a very big problem in Ethiopia. So we institute the first private paramedic college. So whenever when these people graduate after 18 months, we will hire them. And the other problem that we faced was absence of private-public partnership with the government. As you know, unless and otherwise we closely work with the government, it is very, very difficult for us to continue the job. Because, we are saving. In Ethiopia, people are not insured. We are payment. An emergency happens, and we go there, and we don't know whether the patient. So we are trying to closely work with the government so the government can give us some money to sponsor those people who are not able to pay. So entertaining this situation, like we save 65,000 people, and now currently we grow from 3 ambulances to 13 ambulances. The growth is not as such tremendous for us. After 10 years, we are planning to make it like 100 ambulances. We only perform 10% of what we need to perform because of the cash flow issue, because of the investment. Even now, I am forced to sell my house again if things are going, ridiculously in the way that we are not as such, attractive for investors. Very fortunately, ordinary investors are being very much attracted, but we are looking for patient capital, like impact investors. We need like huge money because we have a very clear vision about synchronizing the emergency medical service of not only Ethiopia, but East Africa. We want to have a ground ambulance service system in Horn of Africa and East Africa, including Eritrea, Djibouti, Sudan, Somalia. Having air ambulance service system, trauma center, supply chain issues like manufacturing company, and a very modern training center that teaches paramedics for East Africa. This is our vision for my country, Ethiopia, and East Africa and Horn of Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I hope we'll have a chance for any questions to Kibret. But in the meantime, let's hear another wonderfully inspirational story from Ethiopia. Brukti, tell us about WizKids and why you now find yourself leading a social enterprise working with children.
ጤና ይስጥልኝ እንኳን አደረሳችሁ. It means hello, happy new year, because this is Ethiopian New Year week. I guess it's not working. It seems like the slide is not working. Okay, good. As founders of social enterprise, we all have 3 major things in common. 1, we have a drive and passion to make the world a better place. 2, we have identified something that we are very motivated to make better in our community and beyond. I call that my core challenge. 3, we came up with innovative and sustainable solution to the core challenge. I'm going to focus on core challenge over the next 10 minutes. It's the core challenge that wakes me up 4 in the morning and gets me going. It drives me and motivates me. It powers me through all the little day-to-day challenges. Let me back up and tell you how it all started. Although I am now a proud educator, it didn't start out this way. Our education system in Ethiopia didn't allow people to study what they want. I was assigned to a teaching college, which is considered one of the worst future or profession possible. In the last year of the program, we had to do teaching practice before graduation. for the first time, I was in a class in a formal setting where the students consider me a teacher. They didn't know I was dragging myself to college every day. They didn't know I was just there to have work. I knew that they had a new teacher, so they had a new teacher to help them find the precious gem inside them. They felt that anything I, the teacher, said was considered as fact. That trust and those adorable kids changed my life. I dedicated my life to be the best teacher I could be, no matter how the challenge it can get. That was my drive and passion to make the world a better place. As a school teacher, I noticed a few things. There wasn't enough children's book in my language, so it was hard to motivate kids to read. There wasn't any teaching aids available, so we would have to make them our own. I also noticed that kids outperformed the typical kids who didn't have the chance to go to kindergarten. Early childhood education was not free and almost not existent in Ethiopia. Literacy rate was at 35%. Estimates of the primary school dropout rate was somewhere over 50%, and in half of all students. This had to stop. My core challenge becomes, how can I prepare kids for school and life with quality education and a mass scale? This led me to start the first educational children TV series, C.I.C Loves Learning. So tackling your core challenge, especially as a social enterprise, will open up a whole new world of small daily challenges. I had no idea how to create TV programs, especially children TV. My family and close friends saw me playing around with puppets and couldn't see the vision I saw of how this could make an impact. We had only one broadcaster in Ethiopia at that time, and I didn't know if they would be interested. I didn't have a backup plan of what I would do if the broadcaster wasn't interested. I had no financial model and wasn't even thinking about that yet. I knew the broadcaster wouldn't pay for it, but I had to find a way. We started broadcasting C.I.C Loves Learning in 2006. We have faced many, many painful challenges along the way, as I'm sure you all have faced. We were even pulled off the air for 2 years during a period when the broadcaster were politicized. I didn't find a way to pay for C.I.C Loves Learning until about 2012, almost 6 years. It took years of the education sector in Ethiopia to understand what we were up to and to stop thinking of us as kids' entertainment. But I would always remind myself of the core challenge, pick up myself, and face whatever storms that comes. Now, 12 years later, we have produced and broadcast over 100 episodes. We have won many international awards for our content. We reach 5 million children every week through our educational TV show. We have also produced We have also produced over 100 children's books and produced classroom teaching aids. We have worked with governments and donors to get these materials into classrooms and have had a measurable impact on the kids in the school that have our materials. Besides national broadcasting, our educational TV show has become part of the education system. So far, we are in over 400 public schools, reaching hundreds of thousands of kids in their day-to-day learning. Over these years, I have created 3 more educational television series for kids of different ages. I have made and worked with lots of young people throughout my country, and as I go to know them and fall in love with them and listen to their challenge, they changed me, and my core challenge evolved. Ethiopian youth make up 42% Ethiopian population. Half of this population is girls. Sadly, still 1/5 of Ethiopian girls marry before age 15. 1/3 of girls do not go to school. 1/3 of girls can't read. Girls spend an average of 28 hours on domestic chores every week. And 2/3 of girls believe that wife beating and violence is justified. My new core challenge becomes how to empower young girls and boys to believe in themselves and develop themselves into change makers in their community and change and challenge the negative social norms that holds girls down. The solution I'm working on is my new TV series called ጥበብ Girls, which means Girls of Wisdom. There are many issues that keeps girls from reaching their full potential worldwide. And children media alone, for example, 3 boys are on a screen to every girl. Girls need to see themselves on a screen as a strong and confident and able to accomplish whatever they set their minds on and overcome every obstacle that comes their way. I'm motivated to design this show because I truly believe that my continent, Africa, as well as the world, would be a better place if with equal opportunity is given to girls. We cannot obtain sustainable development while leaving half the world's population behind. ጥበብ Girls is an educational series about 3 superpower girls who rescue other children in their community from oppressive situations. I believe that ጥበብ Girls will empower young viewers. I believe it will engage people of all ages and genders, and it will stimulate meaningful conversation in the community that will lead to more girls having opportunity to realize their potential, which will in turn lead more communities reach their full potential. So I want to show you a clip.
ከቅርብ ጊዜ ወዲህ በመንደራችን ውስጥ ያሉ ሴቶች ምንም አይነት ችግር ሲገጥማቸው 3 ጥበብ ለባሾች በመባል የሚታወቁ የተለየ ኃይል ያላቸው ሴቶች ሊረዷቸው ይመጣሉ። ጠንካራዋ ሴት፣ ይህች ሴት ከፍተኛ የሆነ ፍጥነትና ጥንካሬ አላት። ትንቢተኛዋ ሴት፣ እሷ ደግሞ የወደፊቱን የማየት ችሎታ አላት። ውስጥ አዋቂዋ ሴት፣ በከፍተኛ ኃይል የሌሎችን ስሜትና ችግር ማየት ትችላለች። እነዚህ 3 ሴቶች አንድ ላይ ሲመጡ ኃይላቸው እጥፍ ድርብ በመሆን ማንም ሊያስቆማቸው ይችላል። እኔ ሀና እባላለሁ። በዚህ ሰዓት የጥበብ ለባሾቹን ድጋፍ ካላገኘሁ በጣም እጎዳለሁ።
So we're currently producing the first season of ጥበብ Girls and associated learning materials such as comic books, club kits, community conversation tools, and teacher training materials for in-school children as well as out-of-school children to inspire them and their communities to believe in girls' education and have a second chance. With a combination of being in the education and creative industry, the business model is always tricky. It took over 5 years to get the first support of ጥበብ Girls. The situation I'm in now is one where a social enterprise bring forward a vision and creative solution to a problem, but we had to put another NGO into a position of leadership because a donor is now ready to work with social enterprise. This has directly led to the greatest challenge my organization had ever faced. We're at the final stage of a funding agreement that we have worked towards for over a year and a half, but we might need to walk away from this opportunity. It's time for the world to recognize and value social enterprise. The model itself forces a search for sustainable solutions. A social enterprise has vision and determination to scrap and scrape through every bit of funding that it gets. Social enterprise are run like a business, meaning they optimize every dollar and they are still accountable for social impact. This is the future of development. Right now, I need to stop being distracted by this new day-to-day challenge, no matter how hard they are, and focus on my core challenge. I remain myself, that no matter how difficult my current challenges are, it's nothing compared to the challenge faced by millions of girls in my continent. It doesn't compare to the challenge to being pulled from school and forced to marry. It does not compare to getting pregnant before your body is ready to in a remote village with no medical care. It's time to work hard and think creatively and figure out a new way to make Tabab girls happen for Africa and Ethiopian children. It's time to humble myself to my core challenge once again. Thank you.
Well, I think you got that message. Yes, so. Thank you so much, both of you. Brookti, just while, as a continuation of what you were saying there, your work is about empowering young girls. How has it been for an older girl doing the work that you are trying to do in Ethiopia? What's it been like as a woman trying to do this work?
It's tremendously difficult. I think we underestimate, how much pressure, we're facing, because there is this deep-rooted challenge, accepting women to take charge, to give orders, to, direct. So as a creative director, as a CEO, I found it very, very difficult, and sometimes even greater challenge than the actual, work.
And are you meeting objections to the very idea that you should be empowering younger girls?
And that's why I am, keep pushing, because I want to make this better for the next generation.
Let me ask you, Cordant, quite a lot of questions coming in about the sort of mechanics of your operation. How do you finance the ambulance business, and who pays and who doesn't pay? How do you organize that?
Thank you very much. We are using a business model called cross-subsidization. Like 50% of our ambulances are working outside of Addis Ababa with big companies that explore minerals and oils. These companies don't compromise usually on safety, so these people will pay us what we need to be paid. And we subsidize the 24/7 ambulance service. The training, emergency training, like first aid and health safety training for big multinational companies, and the remote medical assistance that we provide out of Addis Ababa, subsidize the 24/7 ambulance service, because we are receiving like $1 per kilometer, the round trip, and we have done a sort of baseline study, and it indicates that for every 24/7 ambulance service, we are receiving $50 to $20 per case, while the cost is $51. So we are just saying that across the board, we are subsidizing every fellow citizen who is using our ambulance $47 per case. So this is the model that we want to share with other social enterprises, which is make us sustainable. But sustainability, in my opinion, after 10 years is not enough as such. We need to scale it up. If we don't solve the problem from the root, you may face the problem in the future. Unless in otherwise social enterprise make their company scalable, still sustainability is an issue.
A question here, how do you manage community demand and quality of service, and what strategies do you apply to maintain and sustain the delivery of the service?
Quality as a social enterprise and as the president of Social Enterprise Ethiopia, I'm very much concerned about quality and equity. You know, in the pre-hospital setup, in the ambulance service, quality should be for everybody. Like you can't say that this person may not pay us, so that we will give him this drug and, you know, this ambulance. We are depending upon the case whenever we dispatch an ambulance. If the person needs advanced life support ambulance or basic life support ambulance, depend on the case, not depend on the ability the patient is paying for us. This makes us a very peculiar social enterprise.
Yep. Thank you. Brookti, how did you get the funding for the very first broadcast? Where did that come from?
From families and fools and our basically life-saving for many years. We had to fund it ourselves to the point that we've been homeless and we had to live with family and things like that. So it wasn't easy, really.
Because the personal cost of this, of getting these things started, is sometimes enormous. I mean, you had to convince your wife that she had to, you know, you had to sell the house. How hard was that?
You know,
excuse me, dear, I've just got a little idea here.
Yeah. It is like a nightmare, frankly speaking. You know, I almost talk about this daily, and she said that, "Are you sure that your mind is really stable? Like you want to sell our only house and you want to have..."
And had she not just had a baby as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
At that time we were having a baby.
Yeah.
And at the end she said that, "Kibrat, I know that this doesn't work at all. And I know that, you know, this is a very foolish idea. In Ethiopia there is, you know, whenever family, we are just trying, you know, we have a very strong culture that you can't say, you know, we were living together and we are not wife and husband. You need to pass through a lot of things." So she called upon what we call Shimagile. Shimagile means all the people will come to you whenever you have some issues with your marriage. So 5 of them came to me and said that, she's talking about this and we agree that you are not stable. I told them that this is a very important issue that we need to address. Who cares? You know, the government should do whatever they want to do. Why don't you open like a business, like pharmacy or a clinic? So I tried to explain for them, and they said that no, we don't agree, and try to be in line with your wife. Then after very frequently talking to her, she said that I'm not convinced, I'm not happy whatever you are talking about, but let me just do it and don't ever talk about ambulance in front of me.
That is a good woman.
Yeah.
She's a keeper.
Yeah. So, you know, after I sold my house, things are very, very difficult, frankly speaking, but now currently my son and my wife have their own small house to live in.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah. Brookti, let's just look at 1 or 2 questions here for you. How will you take your mission beyond Ethiopia? Are you looking for partners?
Yes. I don't think we can do anything, by ourselves. It takes forever if we keep trying to make an impact only with our skill. But getting the right partnership also matters. Who has the same vision, and we're looking for other partners in a different part of Africa to take our programs, and because most of the message and the issue we are tackling are actually a common issue, and it works. So we're looking for amazing partners who have the same vision by working with children and young people and education to bring a better Africa.
So this is where a forum like this, to get this message out, if anybody can help. Yes. Brookti, this is the moment. What can we do here in Scotland? You've got a Scot asking you this question. What can we do here to help young girls with the issues raised?
Well, I think there are many ways we can collaborate. One is that I don't think the women and girls issue is not only African issues. I think it's globally. Even in our screen, like I mentioned, a lot of children videos you see or television programs are still male dominated, and any room you go in, you always should do a head count and see if women and girls are represented. So I think globally we have to create this movement that women and girls have to be equal and also contribute equally and benefit equally. So if we create that movement globally, I think it will trickle down to our community. So yeah, I would say, everywhere we go, we should make sure it is a girl's right is a human right.
Kibret, how many ambulance drivers are women?
Oh, good.
Very difficult to get a woman ambulance driver. We didn't have one, but 40% of our trainees currently who's taking 18-month emergency medical technician training, 40% of them are women.
Really? That's good, yeah. And by the time all the children that Kibret's broadcasting to are a little bit older, you'll have, female ambulance drivers, I'm sure.
I agree.
A question, Brookte, what support structure did you have around you through the difficult times? Because this is tremendously important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think emotionally I say, whenever I take the show to kids and taste it and their reaction, that powers me up, like, for a month or two. But also, families and friends come around and see the impact and give me encouragement. And to be honest, there are big donors also realizing that actually social business is a good model that works. So, getting those recognition and worldwide getting a lot of awards that helps as well, building the confidence of other partners. And the government also, it took a while, but finally, we were working closely with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and making sure, these materials are actually empowering kids and helping them become a better learner, happier, healthier, and smarter. So, taking that as their own product and implementing it in schools. These are the things, it's keeping us going and building our success.
Yeah, and you're able to measure impact then in that sort of way, are you?
Exactly. So kids who are exposed with our materials, our videos and books, have shown a double knowledge gain than kids who are not exposed. So that is a huge difference, and we want to bring that to all the children, not only few.
Your plans, Kibret, for the future, are you, is your hope that what you're doing will be replicated, or are you expanding sort of personally out?
We have a very clear 5-year strategy that we currently are talking with the government to train 5,000 paramedics. We have already finished 50% of the work. Because the government needs like 24,000 paramedics for the entire country, and they already bought 3,000 ambulances. But what we are planning to do is just to work very closely with the government and to fish for potential impact investors. The very important challenge we face is how can we communicate the impact that we are making? How can we really, very difficult when you save somebody, a lady who is leading the family end up in a sort of car crash, and you save that life. How can you communicate this impact to the government, other potential impact investors, so that they are not looking for the money that is being generated out of it, but they calculate and see the impact that we are.
And how do you do that?
Frankly speaking, very difficult. Still now, measuring impact is like illusion, but we are trying to have a network with impact people so that they are currently coming to Ethiopia, and we are trying to show them the impact that we are making for the last 10 years. So that we try to communicate this impact with potential impact investors and the government as well. And also, yes, we are expanding. We are planning to expand for 5 regions of Ethiopia, and in next years we are planning to have synchronized emergency medical service system in Horn of Africa and East Africa as well. But for all this, we need to look for impact investors. We need like a patient capital. That we are very much sure that this is the place where impact investors can make money and make impact. We are saying that social enterprise, that we impact and we profit.
Well, it's fascinating to hear about these projects in Ethiopia, and the Social Enterprise World Forum next year is in Ethiopia. Which is fantastic. So tell us about the structure then in your country that's enabled this, and what we can expect next year.
So we actually, Kabrat and I are a founder among our friends of the Social Enterprise Ethiopia. It's a network that's actually making it easy for other social enterprise to flourish. So they're not going through the hardship we went through. And we are super excited to, to host the next, forum, because this is going to help a lot of, a lot of social business to be learning from other social enterprise who are coming to visit Ethiopia, and we're super excited, and we invite everyone to join us.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating, and I really think, Kabrat, you should invite your wife along and present her with a bouquet of flowers in front of everybody.
Absolutely.
For making this great work possible, because that's what it takes, isn't it? Is individuals, and sometimes it's actually the hidden individuals who are driving this great movement.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We invite everybody to come to Ethiopia, the very beautiful country.
Yes. With amazing food.
The origin of humankind. I know everybody knows about Lucy. If you want to see Lucy, please come. You will never suffer with the connection flight. We have Ethiopian Airlines.
Well, listen, that's a great invitation,
yeah.
And I hope lots and lots of people will go to Ethiopia next year. Thank you very much indeed, Brukti and Kabrat, for that inspiring session. Now, we're going to head off for coffee now, but don't go until you've heard what I have to say next, because I've got some instructions about the sessions after that. After coffee, you're going to be heading to breakout sessions. Venue staff are available to provide assistance, but check which floor your session is on to allow enough time to get there. If you can't remember what breakout you chose, I'm sure that's very possible, check your booking confirmation. The session location is on the app, and the rooms are in the map section of the app. If you haven't chosen a session, there's a list by registration, and you'll be able to add your name to a session if it isn't full. About half the sessions do still have space, and that's good to know. The events team will be on the door with attendance lists ticking off delegates as they enter. I'm instructed to ask you not to try to enter a session if it's full and if you haven't booked. The larger theatres here on this floor, that's the Pentland here, the Sidlaw and Fintry, will have sufficient space for anybody who hasn't selected a session. So that's it. Enjoy your coffee, enjoy your breakout sessions, and I'll look forward to seeing you back here in the afternoon. Bye-bye.